What's up, guys? It's Justin again with another video. This time we're going to do something a little special. So as some of you who have been following the channel for just a little bit might know, I have fallen into a game called Killteam. It's a game I very much love. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know that my wife and I play a lot. I tend to post, at the very least, my matchups on my Instagram story. And then I'll post like my painted kill teams and minis and stuff that I've been working on my feed. But anyway, my wife is like my #1 opponent. I play her more than I play just about anybody. We have started a narrative league in my local hobby store, so I have been playing those guys a lot more. But besides that, my #1 opponent is my wife. Now she runs Compendium, Sisters of Battle. She has no interest in playing novitiates or literally anything else. This is all she wants to play because she knows it, and she's a creature of it's her comfort team, so she knows how to play it. So she doesn't want to she's competitive. I'll put it that way. She's competitive, but she's not competitive enough to learn another team. And since I'm pretty much the only person she has interest in playing, she's not really too stressed about learning a new team. Anyway, another thing you don't know about us is our anniversary is in a couple of days. Let's see, today is the 3rd. So our anniversary is on the 6th. It's on the calendar. That's the big reason I know that. Anyway, I thought it'd be nice to paint her a model for her kill team, give her a new leader, make sure that things look nice. So she's got a pretty, I say a decent collection of Sisters of Battle stuff. I basically bought her the collector's box when they first came out, and then a couple odds and ends here and there. I bought her another box of sisters and some character models. And as much as I like this model, we did the base on this together. I primed it all up, and my wife doesn't like to paint that much. Here's the only model that she's ever painted to completion. It looks good. I'm proud of her. She's proud of it, and that's really all that matters. But she likes it. She's happy with it. That's cool. So I've painted a few for her, mostly her specialists. I asked her what models she didn't want to paint, so I went ahead and painted like her heavy gunner. I think there's another one, and then I painted her just like a regular sister sometime last year. But she's away. She's on a trip right now, on a vacation, I guess would be the best way to put it. She's visiting family, so it's just been me chilling. And I was sitting around yesterday, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put one of her models together, and I'm going to paint her a new leader. So here's what we've done. This is the Palatine model. It is a hero unit, and I have done all kinds of crazy stuff. This is like one of the best models I think I've ever painted. We've done some metallic blue on the armor, or like, we've the black recipe. We'll go through all that. I've done NMM gold, which I've never, this is the second time I've ever done. I'm very happy with the way this has come out. We've got the plasma glow, definitely the best face I've painted on a model this small. The rocks are not something I'm in love with, but when I was trying to glue her to the base, she kept tipping over and leaning because she's on a 1-foot pose, so I stuck a little rock underneath there so she had just something else to brace to. But I'm very happy with this model, and I'm going to show you how we painted it. So stick around to the end and you'll see some proper photos. Otherwise, we'll go through most of the process. I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't tell you how I did the NMM because, again, this is the second time I've done it. I don't feel comfortable teaching it. But as we get a little bit more experienced, that might be something I'll show in the future. But just about everything else is covered. So stick around, get a snack, get a drink. Let's ride. Alright guys, so we're going to start this pretty simple. We've got a pretty heavy zenithal start over our model. This was kind of an accident, so we're going to just go ahead and fix this a little bit. I think it's going to work out a lot better though. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this model. We are going to apply a pretty heavy wash with Nuln Oil just over the entire model, just to bring things back down into that kind of gray, that darker zone. Now all the underneath areas are still black, but this is a little brighter than I want it to be. So we just want to cover everything, get rid of any pooling, and then we're going to do the next step, which will be a dry brush. Alright, so the next step, we're going to take some matte white, there we go, by the Army Painter. We are just going to do a light dry brush of that, if I can get it out of this pot. There we go. And just kind of redo those highlights, just so that we have a nice, decent base to work on. I want this to be a really soft dry brush, so I'm using one from the Army Painter. Yeah, that's good. And we just want to work little light circles. Just grab those highlight or those raised edges, things like that. It doesn't need to be crazy. We want it to be nice and subtle. So the more paint we work off, the better. All right, I think that leaves us pretty much ready to get started. Alright, so I need to actually move some of this stuff around because I'm looking at the camera and I can't really see what I'm doing and move comfortably. There we go, that's a little better. Okay, so we're going to start with the armor. We're going to paint my favorite, not black. I've expressed this multiple times. We're going to go ahead and put a couple layers of Corvus black down. We're literally just going to cover the armor in this. If you hit other details, this is basically the not neat step, so if you make mistakes, not a tremendous deal, but turn this light up a little bit so I can see if that makes any difference. Not really. What would make a difference is if I wasn't a lefty, but I can't exactly help that right now. So, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and just blast this color on here. It might take 2 coats. It probably should take 2 coats just to get nice, even opaque coverage. We want to make sure that this is covering the entirety of the armor. Alright, so now that our armor is finished, the next thing to do is going to be to take some Barrack Nar Burgundy, and we are going to base coat her little cape here. So this color is a little bit more opaque, so you might only need 1 coat, but if you're having any issues, go ahead and throw a second or a third down. Just make sure your color is nice and even. Another thing I'm going to base coat is going to be the handle on her sword here. I think that would be a really nice color for that. And I don't think there's any other details I want in this. Don't forget her sleeves. You know, anything that's that cloth color, just go ahead and grab that. Alright, so now that we've got the cloak done, I realize that there's a lot more actual red on this model than I thought, but this is okay because that burgundy is really going to help push that red with a little bit less effort than you would normally need. So next we're going to take Rhinox hide, and we're going to paint all the leather. And I'm also going to go ahead and, well, I guess that's technically part of the leather. I was going to say paint all the belts, the corset down here, yeah, stuff like that. Grab the sword handle, or the sheath I should say, just anything that you want to be that leather color. Next I'm going to take some Calgar blue, and we're going to paint that over anything that we want to be white. So like the wings, and then the beads and stuff that she's holding are going to get a layer of this. And this particular detail you can kind of be a little bit sloppy. Don't be like too sloppy, but you know, around here, we're not too worried about the cord or anything like that. Just paint around the beads or whatever. Just try not to get the hand too much. Alright, so in what I would consider the last major step before we start washing and highlighting and stuff like that, we're going to take, what did I just use? I think it was Mephiston Red. Pretty sure it was Mephiston. Maybe it was corn. I don't know. Take a red. Mephiston. Yeah. And we're just going to go over that burgundy and the kind of purpley nature of this burgundy color, which it's very much a purple red, is going to help push this red to another level. And it won't require quite as much finessing to get it to look right. And it really, if we apply it nice enough, I don't think we're going to need 2 coats. This is kind of going on a little patchy for me. This is also an old pot. I had to go dig for this because I don't like the red that I normally use. Red is a color that I kind of struggle with, and I think it's because of the reds that I choose to use versus the actual paints themselves. But we're going to paint all the outside of the cloak. We're going to keep the inside that burgundy color. And we'll come back once this is nice and solid. Alright, so here's where we're at. I'm actually very happy with where this is right now. Obviously, we're going to do more, but I just wanted to show it off before we went ahead and jumped into the next step. So the next step is going to be starting to add washes and highlights to things. I'm not really going to go super in depth on some of this, just because I want to get this done. So for the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to grab my Agrax Earthshade, and that is going to go over top of the cloak, the gloves. That's pretty much it. So we're just going to wash all those parts down inside and out of the cloak, the gloves, any of the leather stuff. I'll probably hit these little purity seals with that as well, and then just get that washed up. But in the meantime, another thing we're going to do is we're going to start adding highlights to the armor. So I could come in with Nuln Oil or a black wash. What was that? Okay. Anyway, I could come in with Nuln Oil if I wanted to and give all of the armor a black wash. Not a terrible idea. But I might save it. We'll see. I want to start highlighting. So the way I'm going to highlight this armor is I'm going to move my light in a little bit. And I'm going to look at, you can see kind of right here, running along the thigh, is a natural highlight. Running along the back of the backpack is a natural highlight. Take mental note of these things. We're going to just block these highlights in. So we base coated all the armor with Corvus Black. So now I'm going to take some Incubi Darkness, and we're not going to go super nuts with this. Let me go ahead and get some on the palette. I've not already done that. And this is the easiest way to start plotting your highlights. So again, we're going to put this here under the light. Let me refocus my camera. Come on. I don't know why it's all of a sudden not. There we go. Come on. Come back to me. There we go. So, I'm going to grab a little bit of this. It's a little bit watered down. It's on the wet palette. We're going to get a nice fine point on the brush. And we're going to start with the easy one. We're just going to grab and just do a horizontal line along the top of this. Easy peasy. Next, we're going to look at the thigh. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to pop a line in here. And these don't have to be perfect, and these don't have to blend right now, because this is just the first step. So start plotting your lines. Look at it under a light. Look at what is glowing. Look at what is, you know, catching those highlights. Grab the top of this little panel here. This little edge here. I'm going to grab a little section up here. The top of this. And that's going to give you a source direction as well. So now you know that when you do any of your highlights for the rest of this model, they're going to be from this side. So we got this guy. We're going to grab this little section of the knee. I'm going to grab this line over here. And you want this first highlight to be a little bit thick. It doesn't have to be crazy, but just a little bit, because this is going to be blended later. So if you make it nice and thick now, it's going to make it easier to make your next section of highlights, and it's going to be easier to blend. So I think this is a good stopping point for the front. I'm going to pop a little shine here on the knee. I'm not going to push that as far as some of the other stuff. Next we'll spin it around. We'll do the back the same way. So just kind of grab this at the top here. And then the bottom of the backpack, I think I'm going to run something like this. And that'll be good enough for now. So, we've plotted out our initial highlights. The next thing is we're going to take our next color in our modulation step, I guess. For me, that's going to be Thunderhawk Blue. We're slowly working towards blue. So we went from a dark gray, almost like a navy blue with just a touch of green in it. We've worked up to a dark, more saturated teal. Now this is kind of the same color, but with more white added into it, so kind of leaning more into that gray territory. And I don't have it at my table right this second, but before we finish, we're going to go ahead and do some Fenrisian gray, which is not quite like a Calgar blue, where it's just like a really gray blue. There is a little bit more... it's different. I don't know how to describe it from memory, but so we're going to pop this in here, and we're going to work under the same areas we just worked under. There we go. So once we get this in focus, I will show you. So starting with this backpack here, we're just going to take a smaller section of this. We're just going to pop dots in here and lines. And the lines should be inside of the previous line. So you want a nice straight section that kind of mirrors and stays inside of what you've already done. Sorry about all the noise the kittens are playing. Grab that. Push this up here a little to the top. And if you forget anything, don't worry. You can always go back and just repeat the steps. So, just want to grab, again, some more of these details here. Sorry about the focus. I should have set my camera up on the other side. There we go. So that'll work for now. Now, once you've done this, your highlights, you should be able to pull the model away from you. And from farther away, the highlights should look somewhat plausible. Again, they're not going to be blended or anything crazy like that. You just want to make sure that they don't look wrong. If there's areas that look like they could use more highlight, go ahead and drop that in. This is the stage where you're going to fudge with where you've put things. So like while I was doing that, I noticed I didn't highlight her boobies. So we're going to go ahead and grab the top half of those, her little corset plate here. Did not get any highlight. So once that dries, we'll go ahead and drop the next stage onto that. But we missed it the first time around because I wasn't thinking about it. I think I want to put another highlight here on this side of the leg. I also forgot these little shields, so I'm just going to grab this half of the shield. And then for the other one, we're going to grab the opposite half. So basically, we're grabbing the front half of these little tilting plates on the hips. As for the back half of the shoulders, I think I'm just going to kind of push my highlights towards the top because they are upward facing detail. I think that'll work. Okay, so I'm going to keep pushing these highlights around. Again, use a natural light. Use your light source. Bring it down to your level. So this one's up a little high so I can have decent lighting while I'm filming. Let's tighten this up. And let's make it a little darker so we can not have a totally blown out video. But again, you can see as you turn the figure where the light's going to sit. So you can see that little pop highlight right here on the backpack that I was using for inspiration. That shows up on the same thing on the back. Use natural light to figure out where you're going to be putting your highlights. It's going to help you. It's going to save you time. And at the very worst, it'll look somewhat believable. So we've got our first couple sets of highlights in here. Bring that back up just a little bit. So you can't, it's not super visible, I guess, but that's kind of the idea. You don't want these to be super dramatic jumps. So I'm going to finish kind of fudging these around, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to push them together. Alright, so I've moved some stuff around and I've changed some settings. I can still kind of bump this if I need to and make it a little brighter. But I don't think that's going to serve us too well right now. So here's where we're at. Turn my white light up a little bit. This is kind of my highlights mapped, and I'm pretty pleased with this so far. What I want to do next is show you how I'm going to actually blend these together. Now this is going to be really hard to see just because of my current setup and my lighting situation and other things like that, but I'm hoping that maybe in post I can pop these colors a little bit and exaggerate this just a teeny bit so that you guys can actually see what I'm doing. So let's see, what would be an easy place to practice this? Truthfully, another model where you can actually see what I'm doing, but I don't have one of those right now. So we're just going to work with what we've got. So here on the leg, we've got a little bit of a highlight. We've got our 3 colors down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull some of this Corvus black over here on my palette. I'm going to thin this down to a glaze. And for those of you who are not really sure what a glaze is, I'm sure you probably do. A glaze is a very, very thin layer of paint. This is probably a little thicker than I need it to be. There we go. So you just want to leave a very thin, transparent layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glaze from my darkest area into that color. Alternatively, I could do this particular step out if I wanted to, but I'm going to glaze it in because I want to, the first thing I want to do is I want to blend the colors together. That's the ultimate goal here. But the second goal is to thin out this blue highlight. So if I glaze into that highlight, which again you probably can't see super well, we're going to take that and we're going to make that line a little thinner. We're going to make it a little sharper, and that's where that green color is going to be like a lot more saturated, I guess would be the best way to put it. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do, I've started base coating some of my next color. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to come back with my red, and I'm going to thin this down a little bit. Not quite to a glaze, but almost. And we're just going to basically grab the highlights for the cape. So we've washed everything down. We're just going to come in here and grab these sections that are sticking out. And all that's going to do is kind of create that impression that everything else is in shadow and we're not going up too much past our base color. I saw a video a long time ago, I don't remember who it was by, but they basically explained that when you base coat your cloth material, your cloth isn't going to act like other materials where it's going to get brighter a whole lot and change in value a ton. The color that it is the color that it is. What you're going to start changing is the saturation, and that's going to give you that cloth kind of effect. So I'm just going to grab these things that are sticking out, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we're going to take a little breather from the gloves for a little bit. We'll come back and tidy that up some more in a little while. I've gone ahead, I've base coated all of my gold. I think, God, I'm nervous about doing this, but I think I'm going to try a non-metallic metal gold. I've never really done this, but you know, you don't get good at doing stuff unless you try it, right? So we've gone ahead, we have base coated all of our golds in Baylor Brown. And what I think I'm going to use for my palette here, I think we're going to do Rhinox Hide, Baylor Brown. I feel like Yellow Ochre is a little close to the Baylor Brown, but we'll see how it goes. And then Arid Earth. So if that doesn't work out the way I want to, I think I can swap out the Yellow Ochre and maybe do, I feel like Uriel Yellow is too like yellow. But I think if I blend it, like if I don't just use straight Uriel Yellow, if I mix it with either this and this or this and this, it should be fine. I don't know. We'll put it on the palette. We'll see how it does. But the idea is I'm going to just futz with it a little bit. So I guess for the sake of demonstration, because I don't know what I'm doing here, so I don't want to teach it, but I do want to show it. So let's just put these 4 colors on the palette. In like a small progression, I guess, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so I guess this arch thing is probably the best thing to practice my thought process here on. So in my head, the way this is going to work is I'm going to thin these all down, not a ton, but I do want them like so I can, you know, blend them a little bit. I'm thinking towards the bottom. Oh, geez. Uh-oh. That's okay. Towards the bottom, I'm thinking we're going to just drop in glazes of Rhinox hide. I think that's, you know, that is not unreasonable. And that's going to be our shadow color. I'm going to be using Baylor Brown as kind of my mid-tone. So I'm going to come back in with that, and I'm just going to kind of blend those together. Just kind of push that down into the darkest parts. And then use my Uriel yellow as my highlight color, which again I just want to push towards the top. Now this is an incredibly rich color, so I'm probably doing way too much right now, but that's okay, because just like with the other colors, I can just push it back. So I'm thinking, get that on there while it's still wet, just kind of work it back down and let those colors blend together. And then just kind of keep working the brown in again while it's still wet. Just kind of push that in there like that. And this probably isn't showing up the best on camera, but I will take pictures, and you know, we'll talk about it and see if I can figure out what I'm doing here. But if I don't take a stab at something, I'm not going to learn how to do it the right way. So in order to succeed, I must first kind of fail. So okay, I don't think that looks too bad. And then I think, given the oddness of this shape, I think that looks pretty good so far. So then what I'm thinking is, because these shapes here are much smaller, what I think I'm going to do is just thin down this yellow a lot, and I'm just going to pick out the upward facing bits, kind of like that. And then on the bottom side, I want like a kind of in between the two browns. So the Rhinox hide and the Baylor brown, I want just something kind of in the middle, not too dark. I don't want to go all the way with it, just to kind of create that shadow. And then again, I'm going to push this just a little bit further. I'm not dissatisfied with it, but I do want to do a little bit more. So let's just pull this up. There we go. Yeah. And then this guy. Yeah. And then just kind of blend that with just a damp brush. Kind of pull that where I want it to be. And I am not completely unhappy with this, although it's very difficult to see. Let me see if that doesn't help a ton, but maybe you can see it a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to keep working this around the model. I'm going to see what I can come up with. Like I said, I'll show you guys pictures once this is all done. But I think that looks okay. I think it's a solid start. As for the last color, I think I'm just going to just dot in some like really extreme highlights. So like on the tips of these, and then like on the rivets on the tops, just to create that that impression that the sun is like, or the light source I should say, is beaming down on it. And then we'll work that a little more. I do think that's a little bit too yellow. I think just working a little bit of the mid-tone in will help kind of dull that down a little bit. So I'll come back and I'll show you what I've got. Okay, so I went ahead and did all my gold non-metallic metal, and then I did my silver non-metallic metal, and I got kind of carried away and just worked on the rest of the model. Really, nothing here is too outside of what you should expect to be doing, besides what I did with the non-metallic metal. I took the light blue, I just put white in the feathers. This glow is just Sotec green with white added to make it glow. You know, I don't really know what else to say. The only thing I really have left to paint on this is the purity seals, and I don't know how informative that's going to be, because all I do is I take a bone color. I go ahead and paint that over the purity seal. And then I'll wash that with Seraphim Sepia, and then I'll come in with a black ink and just sort of scribble some lines and some, you know, nonsense to make it look like there's text. And then I'll hit it with another layer of Seraphim Sepia and call it a day. So I honestly didn't expect this mini to get finished today, let alone in two sessions. But I'm very happy that it is, because that means that the mission was a success. I'm very, very happy with it. I think this is probably one of the best minis I've painted to date. But we're not done yet. I have one more thing I will be showing you. I have to run to the store. We're going to base the mini. And in case you were wondering, here's her head. I spent more time on her head than I have any other mini I've ever painted. If it'll focus, there we go. Again, very, very happy with the way that came out. The biggest thing for this one was the hair. I used a mix of ash gray. I mixed in just the tiniest bit of Calgar blue, and I just started doing little like strands of hair, and then I would add just a tiny bit of white, and then I would do some more strands of hair, and then I would add some more white and more strands of hair, until eventually I was working with pure white, and I just did some highlights with that. Now I focused a lot of my work at the beginning towards the bottom, and as I added more and more white, I started focusing it more towards the top. That way my highlights were the strongest. And I didn't drag my highlights all the way down the side. I brought them about halfway down, and then I kind of split the highlight. So like I would do like a row of highlights, and then in between each one of those I would bring them down the rest of the way. Or I would split them and make little V's, like upside down V's. And that sort of created the impression I was looking for. I believe I picked up a majority of the idea for doing the hair from a Vincent Venturella video. So if you are subscribed to him, he has a great video on doing white hair. So check that out. The rest of this I just kind of winged it. I'm pretty happy with it, like I said. So I'm going to run to the store, I'm going to grab the stuff I need, and we're going to base this guy, or this girl I should say, and then I'll take lots of pictures. I'm very, very stoked with how this has come out so far. Alright guys, so for the base, I had these two technical paints. I wasn't sure what the difference between them was, so I went ahead and we used Astrogranite Debris. In my brain I'm hoping that just the Astrogranite Debris had bigger chunks in it. If there's a difference at all, it might have just been renamed. But we went ahead, we put a nice layer of that down, we let it dry so I didn't have to do this in like multiple takes. And then I put a black wash over top, and we're just going to tap the excess off of that. This is already dried, and that just kind of leaves some of your peaks, that nice like medium gray with dark gray in the deeper parts. And we're going to dry brush this up once this dries, but I just wanted to show you that little bit. And you can, obviously you can keep pushing this if you want to. But yeah, so once this dries, we'll come back, we'll hit it with some dry brushing. We're taking it keeping it a little simple on this one. I just think it would be, it feels appropriate. If I can find my little tiny bricks that I use with my towel, I will probably stick 1 or 2 of those on here because I really like the way those look. And this guy, or this gal, this lady, shall be finished. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm very happy with the way she has come out. I also put some transfers on there, so she's gonna get a matte coat. But yeah, we're at the finish line, so stay tuned. Alright guys, so what we're going to do is we're going to use our gray triad that we made here. So we got uniform gray, ash gray, spaceship exterior. We're going to use this nice little dry brush. I'm just going to, the uniform gray is probably going to be our heaviest dry brush. But still, you know, not going too nuts with it. We just want to kind of bring the color back to that neutral medium gray that it was. Now we're gonna get a bunch of that off. We're not worried about cleaning the brush too much. I'm gonna grab that uniform, or that ash gray, bring that up just a little bit, and this is where things are gonna start getting a little, yeah, not too bad. Again, just keep it nice and light. Might help if I actually did it on camera. Sorry. Alright, I don't know what happened there, but we've gone ahead, we've done the uniform gray, we've done the ash gray. Now we've got left is the spaceship exterior. This is our lightest color, so naturally you want to try and keep this as subtle as possible. So we're just going to try and grab like the tippy tops. We're barely touching the piece. As you can see, that's you know, it's still pretty heavy, but there we go. So if you wanted to, you can take this just a teeny bit further. I'll show you how. Not that it's something I'm desperately interested in doing, but you can grab like Seraphim Sepia. Let's grab Agrax. I guess Reichland Flesh Shade wouldn't work too bad. And yeah, we can just kind of wash this back down a little bit. This is really, really nice if you're not crazy about how bright things are. And we're just going to mix these washes up just to give a little bit of color to the surface. So like, you know, maybe some dirt or some oil or whatever is on the ground. Yeah, just grab a little spot like that, pull that out. Now you could probably switch between the sepia and the flesh shade. You probably don't need to use both. It's just going to give you a slightly different effect. But you do want to like mix your colors up. You can throw some what is it? Maybe not Coelia green shade, but the other green wash would probably look real nice in here. You know, just add some extra tones, and then you can kind of do the same thing like we did earlier. So grab your napkin and just kind of dab off some of that excess, and it kind of starts to blend it into the surface a little bit, and it just looks like it's dirty concrete, which I'm cool with that. There we go. Just get that in there and make it look nice. And all right. So now that the base is done, we'll go ahead and we will put her on the base, take some pictures, get a matte coat down. Not in that order. We're gonna do the matte coat before we take pictures, but and then we'll call this video done. So stick around for the gallery, and I'll see you at the next video. Thanks guys for watching. Later.